You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, huge shout out to our sponsors. The Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma. And it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. Adding to that is the Doghouse, and so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too, but I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC, and hopefully our pups will run into each other. If you're looking for a way to make a real difference, check out Bethany Children's Health Center. They're helping children reach their full potential as a leader in pediatric rehabilitation. They're also building a new Outpatient Center of Excellence, and it's going to be a landmark right on Route 66. Want to learn more or even schedule a tour? Just head to bethanychildrens.org and click on the Ways to Give tab. That's bethanychildrens.org. What's up, guys? Welcome back to an episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. We are down at Bedford's camera, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce our fabulous guest today, Rebecka Peterson. It's come all the way from Tulsa, and so thanks so much for coming down. Hope you're enjoying Oklahoma City. Hope you've got to see some great things. The sun's come out for you, which is great, because it was not out this morning. I was trying to walk the dogs this morning, and it was... well, they weren't happy because it was raining. It was miserable. But thanks so much for coming down. Thanks to Jake for connecting us. Yeah, I've heard great things about you. It seems like you do a lot of things, or have done a lot of things, and just don't settle in maybe one career, because there's always something to do. And I love that, because it's on the podcast I have people, like yourself, who just there is more to life, I think, is what comes across, and it comes across that they don't settle. They just want to do as much with their life as possible. And it sounds like you have been doing all of those things. So Jake has sent me some questions which will fit in. But before we start diving into your career, tell me a little bit about you. Where were you born and raised? And what is your current role right now?
So I was born in Uppsala, Sweden. My mom is 100% Swedish. My dad's 100% Iranian. So I like to joke that I'm what you get when you mix two very different cultures together. Yeah. We immigrated to, the beautiful land of Oklahoma. And they are actually both in the medical profession. So they're medical missionaries. Mm-hmm. And by the time I was 16, I'd lived in 4 different countries, which was, rather untethering as a kid. But now as an adult, I'm just so grateful for that global upbringing, particularly having landed at Union Public Schools, which is so culturally rich. We have 62 languages represented. 80% of our population is on free or reduced lunch. Yeah. So, what was untethering as a student really now tethers me to my students, because I know what it's like to have a foot in one culture at home and a foot in a different culture at school. And so I'm just very, very grateful for that global upbringing, largely because it can remind us, right, of what it feels like to be on the outside. And whether, you were born and raised in Tulsa or you immigrated from another country, I think every teenager knows what it's like to be on the outside. And when you're on the outside, you watch the inside really close. Mm-hmm. So having that connection with them and really reminding myself to center their experiences and to remember what it's like has been really crucial for my education philosophy.
Yeah. How old were you when you moved to Tulsa?
I was teeny. I was in preschool.
Okay.
But then we lived in Asia as well, my teenage years, and then I finished high school here in the States.
Okay. What was your favorite of the kind of places that you grew up in?
I think that's really hard to say. Like, Tulsa's most definitely home now.
Yeah.
My parents live in Sweden now, and we love to visit, especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
But like Kazakhstan taught me so much. Tajikistan taught me so much, and like I think every place you live, like it becomes a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a little bit of understanding because obviously I'm not from here either, but I definitely haven't lived and had the same situation as you. I have been to Asia once, loved it. It's just so different. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I felt like a giant in Asia too, because I'm a lot taller than most people in Asia. It was so much fun. The food, the culture, the fashion, just the way people express themselves is so different to here. So different. And they didn't have, I felt like we have growing up sort of Western in the UK and out here. I think we're always like looking over our shoulder and kind of we have that little like worry inside of what people think about us. Mm-hmm. Asia does not have that.
Yeah. I agree.
Fully
I really
their
agree.
Own personal fashion or whatever it was, and they just kind of did their thing. Which that was one of my big takeaways. But I have been to Sweden. I played golf in Sweden.
Oh yeah,
I loved it. I was there for a week. We went to Tulistan maybe on the beach.
I don't know it.
Our hotel had an entire nightclub attached to it, meaning like an outdoor festival attached to it. So it was like their spot in the summer, and I'm trying to play golf and be competitive, and there's house music going off, and people.
Sounds right.
As I'm walking to the golf course, there's people stumbling out of the nightclub. I'm like, I'm not playing good golf right now. And would I prefer to have a hangover than go play golf? Maybe not, but I don't know. But it was a beautiful place. Had a lot of fun there, and would love to go back.
Yeah,
right? Everybody's beautiful
gorgeous.
in Sweden too. True.
Yes, and there's this real I don't know, they care about the collective.
Yeah.
For example, my grandma is, she's in her 90s, and the care she receives is it's kind of hard for an American, I think, to fathom. And there's just this real pride in taking care of, particularly the marginalized, I would say, a real pride in taking care of the elderly, the disabled. Their parks are perfect. I mean, you don't ever see a piece of trash, partially because I think people take care of it for the greater good. And so that's something I think about a lot, because we often will compare education systems, and I get it, but the truth is what the data won't show you is the culture, right? And those underlying values.
Yeah, that's been ingrained in them from
for centuries.
It's not different to them. It's just what they do.
That's just who they are.
Whereas for us to make that shift, it will be wildly different.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like a huge ask to ask some people just to clean up their room or their space. So growing up in Tulsa then, what were you growing up thinking, I want a career in this? What was the little childhood dream for you?
Two of them. One of them was a teacher. Okay. I was the girl that would, set up her dolls and beg her poor younger sister to play school every day after school. And kind of whatever grade I was in was the grade I wanted to teach. So really, I went to college, having been really privileged to take some concurrent classes. So I went into college thinking I was going to be a college professor or work for the NSA, because they hire the most mathematicians in the country. So I was either going to be a secret agent or a professor, as one does. So I got my bachelor's in pure mathematics from the University Oklahoma Wesleyan University in Bartlesville, where I met my fantastic husband. And he's from South Dakota. So then we moved to South Dakota to both get our master's degrees. And I got my master's also in pure mathematics with the emphasis in advanced calculus there at the University of South Dakota.
What is it about math that is it that scene in The Matrix where I would look at and math and this makes no sense to me, but you just you're naturally good at it?
Not necessarily. I think for me it actually stems back to my upbringing, where having moved so much, every time we moved, the language changed.
So math
the culture
numbers
changed.
Was the one thing that
right.
didn't
The food
change.
changed,
That
right?
makes total
but
sense,
like
yeah.
I could look at a sign and the only thing I could make out were the digits, right?
Yeah.
And so like math was the security blanket for me and the safe place for me. It was like this friend I carried all over, all over the world. And that's then when I realized like I wanted other kids to feel that like meditative, rhythmic experience of math when you can really like dive into a problem, which we know like kids do all the time when they read books, right? But we don't talk about math in that same like kind of beautiful, creative, safe space. So I got my master's. I planned to teach at the college level. I taught at Tulsa Community College for a year, but interestingly, my assignment was teaching the dual credit courses at Union High School. And so the principal there at the time, Mrs. Lisa Witcher, who's my dear, dear mentor and friend to this day, I can still remember her saying, like, I'd rather you teach 130 of my students than 60 of them. So she took a chance on me, and I got alternatively certified and have been teaching. I started teaching at the high school there in 2012. And then my life kind of changed. In 2022, I was announced as Oklahoma Teacher of the Year, which you get pulled out of the classroom for a year to travel the state and advocate and listen and learn. And then a year later, in 2023, I was announced as the National Teacher of the Year. So again, another year out of the classroom, this time traveling all over the country. And that tenure ended about almost a year ago in June. And so now I am home at Union as their teacher leadership specialist, working on teacher retention, recruitment, sustainability.
Okay. Before we dive into you traveling around Oklahoma and the nation with the awards, congratulations, by the way, and the awards that you had. The NSA, we can't just skip over the NSA. Where does the dream of the NSA come from before you decide to go to teach at the college level?
I think it was one too many episodes of Alias with my dad.
Okay. Was that a weekly occurrence?
Yeah. Alias and 24.
People listening, maybe watching, it wasn't always DVR, right? You couldn't just watch everything. We used to I had a favorite show I watched every Sunday.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's, so... Alias with Dad. You thought,
Dad, and 24. Do you remember Jack Bauer? Yeah. Then I realized I'm not sure. You have to commit like a good decade to them, and decided.
Was Dad disappointed that you didn't go down that road?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. Yeah, that would have been cool to do that, right? Like,
it would have been
coming from the worldly background that you have.
Right.
Not a lot of candidates, I assume, have that. So it would have been...
Yeah, and it was, we still are in a time, right, where women are really underrepresented in mathematics. And so, that was like, that was an important piece for me too, and continues to be an important piece to like bring that identity and representation to the classroom.
Did you compete in mathematics all the way up through kind of college level, high school, like the mathlete type?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, more like math fairs.
Okay.
But it's like always been a really big part of who I am and what I love, and now I get to have a job, where I did. I got to use it every day.
When you were up in South Dakota, was there always a thought that you would return to Oklahoma?
No, it was pretty ambiguous. I really thought I would go straight into a PhD program, and I was applying, and then we came back for family. Really, my sister was here. We're in Tulsa, and that was really the big draw. That was the big draw. Yeah.
How had Tulsa changed by the time you left and came back?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I think maybe I changed more than Tulsa changed, like I left as a teenager and then came back as like a working adult. But I mean, now I just love raising a family there. Like we have the Gathering Place and Mother Road and really great schools. It's really, it's home. Like it is home.
Yeah, it's, and Route 66 Centennial is coming. And I know Oklahoma's doing a bunch of stuff for that. Reese over at the Oklahoma Route 66 Association is great. And their office is just down from Mother Road, actually. right next to the Bama Pie building.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So right off the street. But yeah, it's I love Tulsa. I love Tulsa from a historical architecture standpoint because Oklahoma City destroyed all its beautiful buildings and Tulsa didn't. Like the Mayo is one of my favorite buildings.
Mayo, yep.
The Mayo's great,
Yep.
and all the people there are awesome too. So you come back for a job, come back for family, you get the job as well. When does that timeline line up with you winning Oklahoma Teacher of the Year? How long is that after you come back?
So I was teaching at Union. So I did 3 years teaching at the college level, South Dakota and TCC, and then 10 years at Union.
Okay.
Yeah.
How has teaching changed in 10 years with everything
lot.
that's happening, right? Technology and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah. Goodness. It's changed a lot. Technology, and I think for me, the big break is COVID. I know our students are different. We know that their brains are literally scanning differently post-COVID than they were pre-COVID. But yeah, technology has been a massive shift. There feels like sometimes there's so much technology thrown at teachers that we have to really sift through what is meaningful for us in our current timeline in classroom with our current students. One thing COVID really taught me that in conjunction with technology that I would not have really considered had we not been in the crisis of a pandemic was the flipped classroom. And what that looks like is you flip the lesson and the homework. So I would create this video that my students would interact with, and they would watch that at home. And then when they came to class, we would do the calculus together.
Okay.
And it ended up being so revolutionary that I kept it even post-pandemic, even when I didn't have kids quarantined or in and out, right? I just feel like I get to do math with my students and not at them anymore. And that would never have happened without COVID. So I think even in the midst of really tough times and hardships and quite frankly tragedy, there are these gifts tucked into the fabric of those events.
Yeah. Still being clearly teaching's a passion, right?
Yeah,
you wouldn't be continuing to do it. What inspires you daily to keep coming back to work every day? Because I'm sure there are days as a teacher you're just this is not worth my time. I want to go do something else.
Absolutely.
And you've lived so many different lives and done a lot of other things, which I'm sure we'll get into as well. But you've kind of, like I said, you've traveled the world, you've seen everything. Why still teaching, and why still be teaching in Union?
Because of the kids, and quite frankly, because of my faith. I believe that public education is opening doors for students that otherwise those doors would be closed to them. I believe that public education is here to dismantle marginalization and make pathways and create hope. And I think in Oklahoma in particular, poverty remains our biggest obstacle, but poverty is not necessarily the absence of money. I think it's the absence of hope, and public education offers that hope to students. But to your point, it's really, really hard work. And I really had one foot out the door my first year in high school teaching. And I really honestly serendipitously stumbled upon this community blog called One Good Thing. And it was math teachers at the time who were committed to writing something good that happened in their classroom. And they lived by this quote by Alice Morse Earl, who said, "Every day may not be good, but there's something good in every day." And that quote just hit me so viscerally, right? Because I was that's teaching. And so I just started I joined the blog and I started writing something good that happened in the classroom every day. And I just kept writing and writing long after blogs were a thing of the past. It's the one overly committed teacher. And after a decade of writing good things, I had written 1,400 good things that happened in the classroom. Wow. And there's really this evolution that happened for me because I started in this reactive frame of mind where I would think about my day in the past until I could think of something kind of sort of halfway good that happened, my seating chart worked today, and then there was this shift where I started to actively notice the good that was happening. And I found like myself being like, that's my one good thing today. You know, like Jose asked me to come to the soccer game, or like one good thing. Maggie asked a question that was not, can I go to the bathroom? And then there was like this final shift that was really proactive. And I started to want to like be the good. And I think people say a lot like, oh, you were gratitude journaling. And I don't think that, maybe it started out that way. I think, yes, it started out as like me writing what I was getting, but I actually think it ended up being me writing what I was giving. And so I think actually it's more like contribution journaling than it was, at least at the end, gratitude journaling. And there's really fascinating research now that shows like, yes, gratitude journaling increases happiness, but contribution journaling actually increases motivation. And so like this whole time I was like, this is the sustaining thing for me, right? And now we have research indicating that, yes, indeed it is.
Yeah. Diving into that as well, you know, yeah, it's great to go in every day and feel like, but you have to connect, right? You have to connect with your kids regardless of how old they are. Yeah. And I think it's more, I spoke at OU 3 days ago, and I'm standing there talking about podcasting and how to connect with people, and you know, and like everyone's on their laptop. I don't think anybody made eye contact once, and I was like, I'm 34 years old. I was like, I'm not that far out of class. Right. It's been 10 years since I graduated, and you know, after the lady who asked me to come in called me after, and she's like, they loved you. I was like, what? They didn't. No one paid any attention. And there was two of us speaking too. We kind of both in podcasting. We were bouncing off each other. And we had a great time talking. We could talk about podcasting. Yeah. And I was just like, it made me think, right? How do you connect? Like, how do you find that common ground? And they were all just typing notes in their laptop. They'd look up once. You know, one of them had headphones on. I'm like, a different world. But how for you in high school, you know, and talking to all the ages, does the ages vary? And then also, how has that helped you and maybe some of your key strategies into building authentic relationships and coming across as to these students as like, look, I'm here to help you. I know you don't like coming to school. Because no one really enjoys coming to school, maybe a few. How do you create those authentic relationships with your students?
Well, a first piece is creating procedures in the classroom that create a safe environment, an environment where like everyone feels ready to learn, which in my class means, for example, no cell phones. But key to that, like, I mean, you hit on it, like, it's cliche, right? But kids don't learn from people they don't like. And I think to capture the brain, you have to capture the heart first. So the first year of school, I like talk about my story. I show them a map about like all the different places I've lived. And I just tell them exactly what I told you, that I know. Like, I know what it's like to feel like you're on the outside. And I know what it's like to feel like you have to earn your spot in school, to feel like you have to impress your teachers or like say the right thing or make the right grade, and that I never want my students, I want my students to know they belong and not fit in, right? Like there's a difference. Thank you, Brene Brown. And so I can say that, right? But especially I think with teenagers, like you have to really put your money where your mouth is. And so I share my story the first year of school, and then I say like, I would really love to learn your story, and then I pass around like a little sign-up sheet, and students can sign up for 15-minute time slots to come share their story one-on-one before school, after school, during lunch, not during instructional time, or they have the option to write their story to me. And I started doing that, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, and my AP score skyrocketed. My students have an 89% pass rate on the AP exam, and the rest of Oklahoma has about a 45% pass rate. As comparison, again, these are 80%, our district's 80% free and reduced, right? So knowing and seeing kids is the foundation of learning. And it is where we have to start, especially with this generation now that is so connected to technology. They need something not artificial. like they're dying for something real. And I'll never forget this moment where I had a student sit down. We're getting ready to talk, and she was like, I knew you did this with your students because my sister had you 4 years ago, and I've been waiting 4 years to tell you my story. And it was just such an affirming moment. And as like my mentor, Lisa, says, like, kids spell love, Time. And when we give them like that, one of our most precious, like, non-renewable resources, right? Our time. It goes a really long ways. And kids will go pretty far for you when they know you care, and then they know, like, some things we have in common too.
Yeah. When you talk about the kids, right, coming in, telling you their story, you've had a life of learning, diving into curiosity, just wanting to figure things out, whether it's mathematics or just teaching principles in general. You mentioned, your mentor Lisa, and quoted from Brene Brown. So clearly you have a passion of growth as well. What have you learned from the kids, though? Yeah,
they're my best teacher. I have learned to slow down from the kids. I've learned to center stories. I've learned to listen more than I speak. I've learned that I first and foremost teach people, and then math, right? I say, like, I am my best self when I'm in the classroom.
Yeah.
I love who I am when I'm teaching. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's your true passion, right? And then it's total freedom, and just you don't care about anything else in the world other than the people that are in front of you at that moment, right? And teaching them what you were teaching them that day. On the other side of it, are there any teachers for you growing up that shaped the way that you do things?
Yeah, 100%. I think about, like, my early childhood teachers in particular. Like, I have videos of me, like, with a very heavy Swedish accent. It's like I was the language learner. Or as my dear friend Juliana, who's the 2021 Teacher of the Year, says, linguistically gifted. So I think about them and, like, their affirmation in me, and it's, like, hard being different, but at those, like, differences in me I was never made to feel, like, weird about them. From my teachers, sometimes from students, but my teachers, particularly, like, those very first ones, always made me feel like my differences made me unique and special. And then in middle school, I had this, like, incredible math teacher, Mrs. West, who, like, made me feel like math was my superpower. And she was just so good at pushing me and affirming me. Just that, like, perfect balance, And then in college, I had my advisor, Dr. Turner, he's like, I don't tell a lot of people this, but he's, like, a direct academic descendant from Albert Einstein. So,
wow.
Yeah. So he did his dissertation under a person who did his dissertation under Einstein. Or I may have missed, like, one generation there. But so then I tell my students that they are, academic descendants of Albert Einstein too, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, he really, 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 like, pushed his students not just to lean into their talents, but to look for spaces where their talents would be a blessing to other people.
Okay. I'm sure daily or maybe weekly you see things in Oklahoma education, and we're not doing good at it, right? Like, if you hear the news or you hear whatever it is, and if you could have the keys for a day, what would you change?
I would change teacher pay.
Yeah.
So we start our teachers at $39,600 here in Oklahoma. Arkansas, like, base, the very minimum you can make is $50,000. New Mexico, the very minimum you can make is $50,000. You can move to Dallas and make $62,000.
We're so much better than those states as well, right? Not in teaching, clearly, but everything else we are.
So, you accumulate, like, it. Yeah. So 50,000 in Arkansas and New Mexico, 62 in Dallas. It takes, if you're on the minimum salary here in Oklahoma, which many districts are, it takes 15 years to get to 50,000. In those 15 years, if you were to, cross state lines, you can make $250,000 more.
Yeah.
Cumulative, right?
Yeah.
And so why? Well, because everything comes down, all the research shows this, everything comes down to the quality of the teacher. And if we want to increase the quality of Oklahoma teachers, then we have to increase the size of the applicant pool, right? I want my own child, he currently wants to be a teacher, I want him to find that as a really viable and honoring profession. Teachers don't go into this to make millions. They also don't go into this to be on food stamps if they're single moms, or share a 2-bedroom apartment with their 2 kids. This is completely unacceptable. And so that's what I would do. I would start with a significant teacher pay raise, so that like kids who think like they might want to be teachers can, and they don't have adults telling them, don't do that, you won't make enough to survive.
Do something else, right? Pushing you into a different industry, even though clearly there's a passion for teaching.
In Finland, you have to graduate in the top 1/3 of your high school class to even enter into into teacher pathway. Well, the top 1/3, then you expect them to make a decent living. So if we're going to restore the honor and respect of the teaching profession, then teachers have to make a decent wage.
You can't have one without the other.
No.
Right? And it will, sadly, it might take a while, but it shouldn't, we shouldn't be here in the first place. Let's talk a little bit about your Teacher of the Year and then going into National Teacher of the Year. What does that look like when you get presented that? You win that award and both of those awards. You spend a year traveling around Oklahoma first. What was that like?
It was really amazing. It was really amazing. So in Oklahoma, you have a year of service, and I was selected as our Teacher of the Year. I didn't win an award. I was selected for a job, and it's a job for a year.
Pretty cool job, though,
it's a really cool
nice
job. And here
have.
in Oklahoma, it's not in every state, but in Oklahoma, you're released from classroom duties for a year, and then you're given a lot of autonomy to be like, you get to now work on a passion project. And so I really thought, what do I want my passion project to be? And I thought, I want to intersect the two things that really make me the teacher that I think I am, which was the one good thing, and learning stories. And so I intersected those to create a platform called Teachers of Oklahoma. Are you familiar with Humans of New York?
I am, yeah.
Okay, so it's like that, where I would go just learn from teachers all across the state, and I would visit them in their classrooms, interview them during their lunch period, and then drive back home and write about all the good that I saw in their classrooms, and then their stories would appear on our social media handles as well as on the State Department's website and on full page ads in their local newspapers. So it's really, really important for me to take this little spotlight that I got and to shine it on the incredible teachers all over our state. So that was really a year of a lifetime, and I, had never known state's geography better than I had that year. Driving all over, I put thousands and thousands of miles. You also get a car for the year. On that car. So that was my, you have speaking engagements too and all that, but between those, my focus was the Teachers of Oklahoma campaign.
Any highlights?
Oh man. I have moments that really stick out that honestly have shaped the way I think. I visited a teacher in Pauls Valley who had been teaching for 25 years, and in those 25 years had lost 25 students.
Oh, wow.
And where those kids sat.
Yeah, that's the tough part, right? It's the same seat that the next year a kid's sitting in.
Or the next day.
Yeah. Oh,
and so for her to have to be there for her kids, the next day sometimes. And then no one's really taking care of the teachers. Was so, I think about it, so she said these words, she's like, we're trauma-informed for students, but we are not trauma-informed for educators. And I just think she is spot on. Like, she is spot on, because that, like, second-hand trauma we carry, and then, like, sort of that first-hand trauma of, like, being sometimes the first responders, we really do need to do a better job of thinking through systems that hold our teachers and our educators to. I visited another teacher really close to the Texas border, and he said, after COVID, school feels optional. Like, it's optional for kids to come. It's optional for parents to send their kids, or optional for them to come to, like, back to school stuff. And this was 2 to 3 years ago, and it's like, we still know, like, chronic absenteeism is through the roof. Like, we have not fixed that. And so, I just have moments like that where I just think, how lucky am I to have, like, been able to scoot up close to these like lifelong educators who have just such a good pulse on their community, on their students, on education as a whole.
How did that shape your going into your national teacher of the year? So in your national year, you don't really have a passion project. You're just like out speaking all the time. And so it became really important for me, just like as I would tell my students stories with permission and authenticity and all that, also tell the stories of like Oklahoma teachers as a whole. Because that's who we are, and like when we learn each other's stories, we like carry this piece of each other in us, and it changes us. Like they changed like, again, like the fabric of who I am. Bringing this to current times, your current role, how have the things that you've done, and you've touched on this a little bit earlier with the travel that you've had and the kind of things that have shaped you, and you talk about 60 languages, right? Which is, to me, that is...
It's the coolest.
In a high school as well. I know union's kind of a big thing, but still, and for me, like when, growing up back home, I think there were like maybe 5 different languages, right? And now it's probably different because the UK is very diverse, but still, like, that's... talking about your background and where you are, I couldn't think of a better person for the role that you have, right? Because you have all this experience and you have all this travel and all this worldly, and I can resonate with the being different and being not felt like you're left out, but you just know that you're different, right? For me, it was different because I went to Southern Nazarene University. I didn't grow up in a faith-based background, so that was my initial thing. Oh wow! So, but how is the current time coming out of COVID into this new role, into the role that you're in now? What's the day-to-day like? How fun is that?
It's super
and how
fun.
old are the kids that you're teaching?
So this year I'm actually not in the classroom.
Okay.
But I'm finding my way back or forward. Oh, with every fiber of my being.
Get me back to the classroom.
But my district was so really wonderful in letting me kind of create a new position that I feel gets to like marry my classroom experience with my teacher of the year experience. So it's a district position, but I'm housed back at the high school where I'm like, where my family is, and very like broadly working on teacher retention recruitment, which takes a lot of different forms and it really depends on the day. So part of that is like making community partnerships with like the local churches or writing grants to make sure like our teachers have supplies so that they don't have to like keep funding their
When I found that out, I thought that was ludicrous. Friends of mine going to the teacher role when I was in college and have to buy or raise money for their own supplies.
It's bananas. Especially because as we already hit, it's not like we make a lot.
Right.
Checking in on first-year teachers in particular. And then a really exciting piece for me is creating a future teachers course at the high school for kids who are curious about the teaching profession. We have like an aviation pathway, we have a construction pathway, we're about to have a medical pathway, which I love, and I'm so grateful, right? I'm so grateful for the programs union is able to sustain. But sometimes I felt like we were like pumping other pipelines at the expense of our own. Right. So I said, what about a teacher pipeline or pathway? And so we have 79 students who are interested in taking that course next year. It's a leadership elective, so they'll be in class with me Mondays and Fridays, and then they'll be in residencies Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, so they'll be in other classrooms supporting the work of other teachers in the district. And we'll be talking about, like Mondays and Fridays, we'll be talking about topics in leadership, psychology, education. We'll be talking about how to actually become like a certified teacher in Oklahoma. So the big dream is for those students who say, yes, like I do want to do this, that they're then stuck with me for another 4 years, and then I bring them home to teach. Okay.
Yeah. You mentioned being faith is a big part of your life as well. Is that something that came to you later on in life, or was that something that was instilled in you from your parents? And then also with your parents being from so many diverse backgrounds, is faith one of the things that kind of brought them together as well? Sure is,
So my dad was raised like nominally Muslim, and then they immigrated to Sweden. Interestingly, he became a Christian through like somebody knocking on his door, like door-to-door evangelism.
Yeah, still works.
Apparently. And I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, like be
nice to the people
guy,
who are knocking on your door.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the guy actually came back. They had conversations every week for a year, so it was really relationship based. So then he, much to his parents' dismay, abandoned engineering school at the time and started Bible school.
I'm sure his parents were thrilled.
We're not super happy about it. But he met my mom in Bible school, and they had me. They went to Livets Ord. I don't know if you know Word of Life. It's sort of there are like ORU and Rhema connections. So then, so I was raised in a home where like my parents' faith was really important to them, and certainly it was to me growing up as well. I will say, like, I've gone through multiple like iterations and evolutions of my faith as I've grown and changed. But like what is and continues to be so compelling to me is Jesus. It's just like how he came to be with human beings and how he treated humans and how he was always like widening the table, right, and opening doors, and how he was getting up close to the marginalized and the persecuted, the dirty, poor, the dying, right? And to me, that's like an example that that I want to emulate, and why like teaching like fits me certainly, and like fits my faith, fits my philosophy on life. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, the main kind of question was mostly, which you did answer it, was because your parents are from such different backgrounds, and I wondered if like that was a faith thing that you came to later on in life, or was it something that like clearly brought them together? Which that was the answer. It's because some people listening this far would have been, your dad's from Iran, your mom's Swedish. That they're so different.
So different, right? And like Christianity's not really a thing in Sweden.
Right.
Either.
Yeah, it's not. And I had two Swedish roommates, two Swedish teammates on the golf team that I had. And they didn't, my coach did a great job of not telling us before we got on campus.
So that's so interesting because we went to a small Christian college.
Yeah.
And
we had a full international team as well.
Yeah. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a problem.
Slid the lifestyle covenant across the table the day I got there. I was like, what is this?
What am I signing?
I'm like, oh, okay. Sure, whatever. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh gosh.
But, it is fascinating, and it's so many, because it's something that can be quite a big topic for a lot of families, right? Especially if you're butting heads, or you're growing up a different way, or you're raised a different way. And, you meet someone's parents and they're raised totally different, and faith is there were wars fought over it, right? Like it's a big deal, and it still is. It's a big deal.
And even within like the same faith, like it looks, and in the same family can look very different,
Do you incorporate it into your daily teachings?
I think no. Well, flat answer I think would be no. Like I'm not gonna talk about my faith to my students. But like St. Francis said, preach the gospel at all times and when necessary, use words. And so I hope that the way I teach, the way I hope I love, is a way that shines my faith in a good light.
Yeah. Some lighthearted stuff. What, if people were to not know you in the corporate world, not know you as as someone who teaches them, and maybe one of your students listens to this, what do you do for fun? What do you do outside of work? Do you always have your head in a book? Do you like to go out and run around? Like, what are your kind of fun, guilty pleasures that get you out of the, working world?
Yeah. I mean, anything with my boys. My husband, Brett, is my rock. We've been married for 15 years. He actually took the whole year off last year when I was traveling to support our son, Jonas. It was really incredible. So anytime I get to be with them, Jonas plays a lot of sports. So we do soccer, basketball, lacrosse, depending on what month it is. We love to hike. We have a Labradoodle, Otto, who we do a lot of adventures with. We all like to read every night, play a lot of board games. We have an obscene amount of board games. But yeah, and then one of my favorite times of the day is just like the last hour at night where Brett and I put on some like stupid show.
Okay, what are we diving into at the moment? What's the show?
It depends.
What is the show?
We are unfortunately big like Bachelorette fans. Yeah. Right now we're watching Hacks. We're like 5 episodes in, but I enjoy it. We're big fans of like Severance. We got into Bad Monkey, Silo.
Did you watch was it Love is Blind?
I did.
With the pods, did you watch that one?
Yeah, we did. I didn't get
watched the first
as
season.
into
First
it, to be honest. Yeah. There's even like Love is Blind, Sweden.
Yeah.
I couldn't even
There's
get into
a UK
that much.
Too.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. So the first one was the best one, and that's kind of the only one I've watched because the first one was purely the experiment. The second one, media, and the news started, the TV started producing it. But yeah, it's fascinating.
It is. It's things. Wild. Yeah.
Okay. A lot of cool things happening. You spending the day in Oklahoma City today. Yeah. What are the things that you've seen? What are you excited about seeing in Oklahoma City that you don't get to see in Tulsa? Because there's a big, friendly, I wouldn't call it a war, but there's a friendly kind of banter between Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And so what do you get to come and hang out and do in Oklahoma City that you haven't done in Tulsa?
Yeah, we're at the Capitol today and got to bring Jonas this time too, which was really cool for him to see the Capitol for the first time. Yeah. It's just like Senator Pugh said, like it's the most beautiful Capitol in the country, and like I think I kind of agree. Really cool. It's really, really beautiful. So that was really the main thing on the list today. But we love coming to see the thunder.
Yes.
Yeah, but Tulsa's still better. Sorry.
I won't put your contact information in the show notes because people will start yelling at you. They won't, but I do enjoy Tulsa a lot.
It's a good place. It's a really good place.
We'll be up there for a concert, I think, in 3 weeks. At Vanguard. I haven't been to the Vanguard yet.
Okay. I'm not sure.
I usually go to the OK. But
yeah,
this one's
totally.
all Canes.
Okay.
But this is a smaller one. But talking of that, have you been to the OK? Have you had a chance to go and see the OK Pop Museum yet? It's not technically open to the public, but do you know people there? It's amazing.
Okay.
Jake is their new executive director, and he's doing incredible things over there. And when they do open up, it'll be fantastic.
Yeah,
but if
I believe
you do
that.
get to have a little sneak peek in there and know people, it's definitely worth seeing. It's right across the street from Cain's Ballroom.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
It's fantastic place.
Yeah, I believe it.
So you traveled the world growing up your entire life. You mentioned going to see your parents in Sweden. Mm-hmm. Are you going anywhere else this summer? Do you have any trips planned or places that you're excited to go see?
Yes, that's another like really wonderful thing about this new position is it does give me like a little bit of flexibility to travel. Let's see. I am going to be going to New Orleans and Exeter, New Hampshire. In June. Going to do Well, actually, South Dakota and South Dakota virtually, I suppose, but they're like my people. And Florida in July, and then lots of little.
Lots
Not
of
little,
things.
but other places in Oklahoma as kind of schools get kicked off for the season in August. So, yeah.
Plenty on the horizon.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming down. I'm going to finish with one question, and the question is I finish with, because my day job is real estate. I get to turn people's kind of dreams into and find their dream houses that they want to buy.
We just bought a house, just moved 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so you're probably not going to have already prepped to this answer. If you were to build your dream house, what would you build and why? What is in your dream house?
What's in my dream house?
No budget, just build your dream house. And this is your house as well, not your husband's house.
My dream house would have a really big, open, white and gold kitchen.
Okay.
And it would be open to the living room, lots of just comfortable seating to dine and be together and just be in community with our friends and families. Lots of extra bedrooms for people to crash. A built-in place for our obscene number of board games.
Do we have a favorite board game right now? Or favorite of all time?
Favorite
Mine's
of all
Battleship.
time. Oh, that's boring.
Battleship's a classic.
It is classic.
Yeah.
Have you ever played Pandemic? It's a good one. It's cooperative. We had to take a break there, during the pandemic. It felt a little too real. It's a good one. We like King Domino.
Okay. There's a place in Tulsa that you go to.
Yeah, Shuffles.
Shuffles. Is it great?
It's great.
Yeah. Definitely worth going to.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to go. It's great.
Okay. So plenty of space for board games.
Yeah.
And storage
He's telling me
for board games.
Camel Up is another favorite. You race
Okay.
camels. So it's pretty great.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I don't know. Just a place to be, hang out.
Where does the white and gold come from?
It's always in my dream kitchen. Just serene and clean. I really like clean, simple. I don't like clutter.
Okay. It's not about, I have a friend and a person on the podcast who has his Instagram. His name's Daniel. He's great. His Instagram is not a minimalist, and his entire house is covered.
Yeah,
with stuff.
that's.
Some people would call it clutter. He calls it artwork, and to see it in person, it's an experience. His Instagram is great. He's got a great Instagram following. Not a minimalist
So
for people
good.
watching.
That's so good.
It's so awesome, but it would probably give you anxiety.
It would probably
and you're
give me hives,
get
yes.
me out of here. But awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate your
Thanks for
time.
having me.
Safe travels back to Union, and excited to hear and to do this again in 5-10 years and hear the impact that's happened, and hear some stories, I'm sure, from the kids that you've had in class. And it's always great when they come back and you see them 10 years later, and
hopefully they're teachers, right?
Hopefully they're teaching math, right?
Right.
So
yeah, I'm excited.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having
people
me.
listening, I will put if Rebecca wants to put her contact information in the description down below, I'll put it right there. But if not, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my 2 golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight,
They do grooming and other cool things too, but I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC, and hopefully our pups will run into each other. If you're looking for a way to make a real difference, check out Bethany Children's Health Center. They're helping children reach their full potential as a leader in pediatric rehabilitation. They're also building a new Outpatient Center of Excellence, and it's going to be a landmark right on Route 66. Want to learn more or even schedule a tour? Just head to bethanychildrens.org and click on the Ways to Give tab. That's bethanychildrens.org.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.